Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome to Marked by Wrestling. We are going to take some time today to do a little recap of Monday Night Raw from last night, June 16th, 2025. Our King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring semifinals are all set. And those will continue next week. They are not having semifinals at the PLE in Saudi Arabia, just the finals matches. And man, there's plenty to talk about. There is good, bad, and ugly from last night to talk about. So, so much going on. Returns, injuries, plot developments, and everything in between. So, my goal here today is just to kind of go through the show a little bit and give some thoughts on how things went. So that being said, we open the show with Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan. Liv, who is unfortunately going to be in for a rough night. Liv started off the show strong. I mean, cutting a strong promo. I do think she's really ascended, as a performer. I think, I was among many voices in the past year to admit and give her credit that she's probably been one of the most improved superstars on the roster, and had a heck of a year last year. And I only happen to notice when she gets really angry, she kind of sounds like Meg from Family Guy. She kind of sounds like Mila Kunis a little bit. And that never clicked with me until last night and that opening promo. But she's basically, running down Nikki Bella, who she had an issue with previous week, in a good exchange there, and then calls out Io Sky. Io Sky, our world champion, and people are still loving Io, which I'm so happy to see. Io's doing incredible work, and while she's not defending the title a lot, I think we're it feels like we are, I don't want to say drifting, but I think that we are kind of like moving towards a sort of an older time where world champions are not constantly being exposed on TV in matches. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's a bad thing. It's a little bit of an adjustment, but having having a time like that is not bad, and maybe more on that in a few. But yeah, Io drops Liv, and then celebrates in the ring and stands tall, and that moves us so backstage after they come back from one of many commercials. Liv is backstage with Judgment Day, which, by the way, PlayStation is back in the Judgment Day clubhouse. In my head canon, that belonged to Carlito. And with Carlito gone, I thought the PlayStation was gone. So anyway, it's just a small little background thing that I always look for every week. It's to see if they're still playing PS5, playing 2K in the background of the old Judgment Day clubhouse. Now, Liv has a little bit of tension with Raquel being there, saying, like, why weren't you there for me? Like, I would have been there for you, kind of thing. And it's I wouldn't go so far as to say foreboding. Like, I would have thought previously, this is kind of some foreshadowing, but the night doesn't go the way we think it's going to, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the final first round match for Queen of the Ring is Ivy Nile versus Raquel Rodriguez, La Primera, Stephanie Vaquer, and a returning Asuka, which chalk up another victory column, another notch in the victory column for Asuka, coming back with her not Def Rebel theme. She was back to using the future. Her baby is interesting. It's a kind of a hybrid. It's her theme is from her, NXT days and her initial run in WWE, but she's wearing the paint, that more intimidating looking face paint from her last return, the one she made at the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago. So anyway, a fun match here, a creative spot between Raquel and Stephanie that ends up with the Devil's Kiss going on in the apron. And so that was a fun little spot as well. Anyway, towards the end of the match, we get interference because since we're all these first round matches are fatal four ways, of course we are getting interference in all these matches, and so Rhea Ripley shows up and causes a little bit of trouble with Raquel Rodriguez. So it looks like we might be getting a little bit of a program there. And then Asuka takes advantage and Asuka moves on. So she gets a post-match promo, and the crowd's happy to see her back. She's still an immediate post-match promo is always a little tough because these athletes here are still trying to breathe. And so in regards to that, it can be a little challenging, but she did a good job. And then we see Gunther, the new world champion, entering the arena as he obviously reclaimed his title from Jey Uso last week. Anyway, Raquel is basically tending to her wounds after having been attacked by Rhea, and Liv is furious. And but Raquel says, "Hey, I'm just not cleared to do anything else tonight." And so Liv just says, well, "Fine, I'll do it myself," as she has a match with Kairi Sane later on. And then more tension and power struggling in the Judgment Day, which I think. I'm curious to see where it goes now as we'll get there. So, but as it stands, the next segment, Gunther comes out and admits that Jey Uso was a better man just for one night, but he's better every other night. And anyway, he's talking, jawing, and then we get the return of Goldberg. Basically says that challenges him to a match at Saturday night's main event in Atlanta, which is Goldberg's hometown. And we've already got that now locked in, and it's going to be for the world title. I'm not a fan of this development. Listen, I grew up in the Monday Night Wars, and that was like in some of my high school years were the Monday Night Wars. I saw Goldberg's ascension. I was right in the middle of Goldberg mania. And all this stuff, and that his time has passed. His time is so past. Hall of Fame, sure. Retirement, sure, but for my money and for my fandom, his match at, I think it was WrestleMania 33, the last one that he had with Lesnar for the Universal title, should have been his last match. That Saudi match with The Undertaker was a bad idea. It was nice of him to put over Drew McIntyre when he did. I believe it was Drew he put over, but it wasn't necessary. And he clearly looks, in wrestler terms, looks old and broken down. Hopefully he's got a good quality of life in his everyday life, but I just don't see a lot of good coming from this matchup with Gunther, because one of those two guys has to win. So honestly, the logical thing to do would have Gunther just dismantle Goldberg. And he would have to do that in his hometown. Hopefully that would draw a little more heat onto Gunther as a world champion, because in other cities people might actually cheer Gunther for doing it. Goldberg cannot wrestle let me finish that sentence. It's not that he can't wrestle. He can't wrestle even a standard length match at this point, probably without getting hurt. And for all the people who want to criticize Jey Uso's wrestling ability, if you think Goldberg, could manage a similar length match with Gunther that Jey did, you're out of your mind. The only thing Goldberg could do is a Goldberg match, which is quick, nasty, and kind of reckless, to be honest. So at this point in his career, so I'm not looking forward to the execution of this match because I feel like the best solution for this match is probably also the least likely, which is Gunther out Goldberg and just squashes Goldberg in like 2 minutes. Um, Goldberg could win this match. He absolutely could win this match because I have a hard time believing he's deciding to come out of retirement, have a match in his hometown, what he's basically online referred to as a retirement match, wanting to come back for one more match, and then coming out and getting embarrassed. I just don't believe he's got that in him. And that's not an indictment on his character. That just doesn't make sense to me that he would do that. And then there is the sort of third option that perhaps Goldberg could get one over on Gunther and then end up immediately falling victim to a cash in from Seth Rollins, which maybe does good things for Seth and gets the belt off of Goldberg, but it really makes Gunther look stupid. I mean, all of this makes any scenario where he loses to Goldberg is going to make Gunther look like a fool because he struggled and earned, a good victory against Jey Uso, who had beaten him, who made him tap out. And then he gets, well, let's just theorize here. If he loses to Goldberg, then he loses in Goldberg fashion, right? Like quick match, right? He pulled a good length match out of Jey Uso, pulled it out of him. They worked together, but they had a competitive match is what I'm saying. And so if Gunther and Jay are having a competitive match and he doesn't have a competitive match with Goldberg, it makes him look weak against an old retired man. And that's, I mean, I really in my heart of hearts would want to believe that Triple H or whoever's, making these creative decisions would value Gunther more than that. There just absolutely does not need to be any justifiable reason to put the title on Goldberg. I mean, if you want to have Seth cash in, Seth could cash in on Gunther. Like, I mean, he's got enough goons with him. Like Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed are not the Putty Patrol. Those are two vicious men. And so, like, you could easily create a scenario where they gang up on Gunther and he takes the title. But like, using Goldberg as a transition is highly unwise and suspect, in my opinion. So anyway, I hope it doesn't happen, but we'll just wait till July and next month and see what happens. We come back from break, AJ Styles versus JD McDonough, which I thought was a really good match. I mean, those guys went at it. And also, I didn't mention this, but Corey Graves is on commentary this week. Pat McAfee's not in the house. And Corey Graves, I think, is really on a good wave of momentum in his commentary. Like his showing at Worlds Collide with Conan was really, really good. And he just did a great job kind of steering the ship on that show. And he and Cole's chemistry was really good last night. And it absolutely, I think it was maybe even most on display in this match with AJ and JD, because, Corey was out there putting over both guys' work ethic and abilities, and even called an Ushigoroshi in the match, and to which Cole was like, "Hey, deep cut," or whatever, like haven't heard that in a while. And so anyway, you could tell they're having fun together, which is key for a broadcast team, that they enjoy doing the job together. Anyway, AJ Styles wins with a Styles Clash, and post-match beatdown is attempted by the Judgment Day, but AJ outsmarts them and walks away, or at least walks down the aisle with the Intercontinental title. Later on in the show, it'll be confirmed that at Night of Champions, AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio will go one-on-one for the Intercontinental title. I think that'll be a lot of fun as well. And depending on where we are with the Judgment Day at that point, it could be a toss-up as to who wins that match. So, anyway, we're still kind of amping up and beefing up the last King of the Ring first round match tonight with this show, which is Jey Uso, Sheamus, Rusev, and Bronson Reed, and with the winner taking on Cody Rhodes in the next round. And then we get Bayley, who is back. And sorry, I didn't mean to sigh. It was just me catching my breath. Um, Bailey comes back to cut a promo on Becky Lynch. You know, uh, I had a sense of dread in this segment a little bit because Bailey came out and it was just a little awkward for me. I really like Bailey. I like her in the ring, especially. I think she's great in between the ropes. She's never been the most excelling promo. I mean, well, I should say this as a baby face. For some reason, as a heel, it kind of unlocks for her. But the sort of gee golly kind of baby face promos she does, I don't know, they don't click with me so much. And knowing that Becky was probably going to come out at some point, I'm like, man, Becky's going to grab that mic and she's going to show how big the gap is between them on the mic, and it's going to be uncomfortable for me. And I was right. I was proven right. Becky comes out and they continue, going back and forth. But yeah, Bailey's promo was just a little uneven for me. Like, and it wasn't all her fault either. I'm going to blame Green Bay a little bit for this because apparently people in the crowd started to sing the Bailey song. I never heard it on my TV, but she called it out in the crowd, like, "Oh, you guys are going to sing my song," and then did. Like it just didn't happen. Like, and then we just got like "Let's Go Bailey" chants. So I'm like, oh boy, this is just uncomfortable. It's like two dance partners at a middle school dance, like who just neither of them know which direction they're going, kind of thing. So it was rough, Nevertheless, once Becky Lynch comes out, everything is taken up a notch. Coming out in Chicago Bears gear in Green Bay, and I don't know. I don't know if this is a statement on the wrestlers or if this is a statement on Green Bay as a town, but the Bears got more heat in that segment than anyone. And so I mean, you can use the transitive pop property to apply that to Becky Lynch, but yeah, they were chanting against the Bears more than they were chanting against Becky or for Bailey in that regard, which is uh, something. At least they weren't saying what they weren't whatting either one of them. So I'll give them credit there. Um, anyway, they go back and forth, and then Bailey, challenges Becky for the title. And Becky tries a cheap shot, which backfires, and she gets dropped by Bailey, and that's confirmed for next week's Raw for the Intercontinental title, Bailey versus Becky Lynch. Surprising, we're not getting that at either Evolution or Saturday Night's Main Event or even Night of Champions, but I guess Lyra Valkyria still has to factor into this as well. Maybe we'll get a triple threat at Evolution or something like that. Who knows? We'll see what happens. So, yeah. All right. So, the next match, there's a few other things. Is Kairi Sane and Liv Morgan, and this is just unfortunate. The match starts. They're just doing, kind of a takedown sequence, and Liv lands hard. By looking at it, you can hardly even tell, but separates her shoulder in the match, and they have to call off the match. And a dislocated shoulder is what is reported. And I just hate to see that for Liv. Liv is, well, you hate to see anybody get legitimately injured, of course. But at the same time, Liv has so much momentum right now. There's all the stories going on in the Judgment Day. There's her program with Nikki Bella. She's obviously attached to Dominic Mysterio. She's got a lot of irons in the fire. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe I've just seen too many movies, but I am under the impression that a dislocated shoulder hopefully won't sideline her for very long. So maybe she'll be back before we know it. But at the same time, if they're still committed to Liv's recovery and to her, not to her recovery, but to her involvement in the storylines that she's in, her being visually absent from the Judgment Day could do a lot for Roxanne Perez moving in a little bit more. I think it was lucky happenstance tonight that there was a slow rift between her and Raquel Rodriguez starting off, and now she's gone. Kayfabe wise, story wise, Finn Balor could really take advantage of this situation. And I don't mean to make light of Liv's injury. Obviously, I hope she gets well soon and gets all the recovery and rest that she needs to come back any better. Justin Helen Crane, thanks for coming into the chat, man. Good to see you. Justin asked, with Liv's injuries, what does that mean to the women's tag team titles? I think, Justin, I think that depends on the extent of the injury. Like with dislocated shoulders, I've seen different timetables for people coming back. If she's gone for a while, I'm disappointed for her, because it really felt like they were going to build towards Raquel and Liv versus the Bella Twins for those titles. And now with her not being able to drop them, they may just have to relinquish them, and maybe they can just do like a multi-team tag match. And then on the other hand, they have ignored the women's tag titles many times in the past, so they could just keep the titles and not say anything about it. I mean, either way, it could happen. I think it just depends really on. It really just depends on the extent of her injury and how long she's going to be out, because I could see them keeping it on her if she's not going to be gone for that long, whatever that means. But hopefully, yeah, you just hate to see real injuries pop up like this. I mean, particularly with people who have so much momentum too. So we'll see what happens. Do I think Roxy would replace Liv? That's actually a great that's actually a great booking right there. And Three Kings, hey man, good to see you, bro. That's actually not a bad that's not a bad booking for either of you guys. So to pull in a Jade and Naomi, yeah, absolutely. You could bring in and you could even have Finn kind of doctor that a little bit, because it already seems like he's gotten through to Raquel just that much. So her walls are coming down just a tiny bit. So you could have, this would be okay. All right. Here, let's get crazy for a second, right? If Roxy was trying to endear herself to Raquel, could you imagine Roxy interfering and helping Raquel beat Rhea Ripley? I think that would go a really long way, because Rhea is kind of the holy grail of women's wrestling when it comes to Judgment Day wrestlers. Like, she is kind of the Kingslayer of these women. And so if Raquel was like, hey, me and Liv have had Rhea be a pain in our neck for a year, but Roxy shows up and we dealt with Rhea, this isn't a bad idea. And then I don't know, I'm not even getting into the Dominic Mysterio of it all. Like, we could have a real, like, history repeats itself, karma comes to get you, Liv Morgan, for all of the home wrecking that she did. So anyway, I don't know. I do think there are possibilities there, and I don't want to salivate over that too much, because I don't want to be disrespectful to Liv's legitimate injury. You know what I mean? But there is a lay of the land already prepared, though, if she's going to be gone for a while, for her to come back to. And so I'm hopeful that, they have recognized the value they've got in Liv, and when she's ready to come back, that there could be a couple of programs still ready for her when she comes back as well. But you could do some really interesting storytelling in her absence, though, if they're on top of their game. And so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. We'll see what happens. All right. And then finally, here, before we get to the main event, Sami Zayn runs afoul again of Karrion Kross. And Sami calls Karrion a coward and basically says, like, I'm going to deal with you after I deal with King of the Ring and all this other stuff. And just for a split second, I really thought when he was calling Karrion Kross a coward, when he's like, all you ever do is stand back here and talk, you don't ever do anything out there. I was like, oh man, could Karrion like come in at the last second and like try to force himself into this match? I was hoping too high, though, but it clearly looks like they're going to be setting up a Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn match here in the future, which I don't know if that telegraphs him versus Randy Orton on Friday, if that's already telling us that Randy's going to win or not. Although Karrion could get involved, he could show up, and then we could have, that could backfire, and we could still get, because I feel like Sammy in Saudi Arabia is like, ever since he started going over there, like, he's almost like number one babyface over there. So not having him out there, I feel like would be a mistake. Unless they did Sammy versus Kerry in there, which would be fun. All right. So yeah, we've got the main event here, the last King of the Ring first round match. Bronson Reed, Jey Uso, Rusev, and Sheamus. Just a hard hitting contest all around. We're just going to jump straight to the end here because I'm not trying to do play by play. It surprise, in a 4-way match, there's a ton of interference, which is just like every match in the tournament has been this way. So hopefully they can tone that down now that it's going to be one-on-one matches from the semis down to the final. But pretty wild. So in comes Braun Breaker to try to ruin the match and make it a victory for Bronson Reed. Then Sami Zayn shows up to even the odds, and then it gets wild. But then Bronson Reed's still recovering, trying to do stuff, and then let's see. There was so much action right there at the end with everyone just kind of showing up to try to ruin the vision, so to speak, of Seth Rollins. Rollins Angels, as A likes to call them. But yeah. Then Sammy tries to capitalize on Braun Breaker. Braun throws him over the announce table, turns around, and Penta shows up and dropped Braun Breaker, which was exciting. Bronson Reed recovers to try to end Jey Uso, and then LA Knight shows up and takes out Reed. And then after all the chaos settles, Jey Uso recovers enough to win the match. And then, which brings out Seth, who is fuming, of course, and with his little Scooby-Doo gold necklace that he wears now, and is getting ready to attack Jey. And then Cody comes out to save Jey Uso. So anyway, they drive off the demons of Seth Rollins' faction, and Cody and Jey are left standing in the ring, who are going to be going one-on-one next week in the semifinals for King of the Ring, and show goes off the air. First of all, I'm gonna pull a deep cut for you guys. We live in the age of the Avengers and Justice League and all this other stuff. But when I was a kid, there was a cartoon I watched called Darkwing Duck. I don't know if you guys remember Darkwing Duck or not, but there was he was kind of like if Batman was a duck in a way, but also kind of stupid. Anyways, really fun cartoon. But there was a series of episodes in that cartoon where all of his villains teamed up to try to take him out. And so he doesn't really so much recruit a super team as he just has a series of friends who just kind of show up. And it's very like Jim Crockett Promotions, early WCW, where there's not really such a thing as a good guy faction, but there's just a loose affiliation of good guys who have common enemies who join up together to do things. So that's the vibe I'm really getting right now. And like, we're so far away from like a War Games. I wonder if we'll still get like a 6-man tag or an 8-man tag or something like that. But right now you've got Cody, Jey, Sammy, Penta, and LA Knight, all kind of with a loose affiliation with each other and their hatred of Rollins, Bronson, and Breaker. And so what's interesting to me about that is they're outnumbered. The bad guys are outnumbered right now, 5-3, which means one of two things. One, either Rollins needs to recruit a new guy, or maybe one of those guys turns heel. I don't know. And I don't know one of those guys is going to turn heel, but clearly there's this sort of big thing here, and you're right. Three Kings, like Triple H, is good at doing those intertwining storylines. I mean, he definitely came up. It reminds me, I said Crockett, you'd always have like the Four Horsemen, right? Oh, that's right. Karrion Kross could, he could slip right into that faction if he wanted to. That's actually not a bad look right there. But you had the Four Horsemen back in the 80s or early 90s or whatever. And they would take on Dusty Rhodes or Sting or the Road Warriors. And those guys didn't have a faction. They were just all like, oh, you hate the Horsemen? So do I. Let's meet up and throw some hands. And so that's kind of what's going on, and I'm really enjoying that. I think that's a good throwback to that time where good guys didn't really have to be in an actual labeled faction because they just were united in their goodness in a way. So anyway, let's chat a little bit for a few more minutes. Since there's been some questions coming up, Justin says, "Question: Who do you see turning heel first, Cody or Jay?" Well, I don't I don't see either of them turning heel anytime soon, but oh gosh, it's really hard because both of them, like the things that keep them babyface are really, really strong and profitable for the company, you know? So, um, hmm, if I had to, yeah, Cody or Jay, I think Cody would be a better heel if he turned. Um, but right now, I think with current booking, I think Jay has the more logical pathway to be a heel. Um, I still think Cody would be a better one. But uh, Jay right now is in the middle of a storyline that they actually kind of teased toward, that CM Punk even teased toward Cody before WrestleMania. He's just like, everyone guns for you, and yet you're trying to be there for everybody else. And so right now we're seeing Jey Uso being a good friend. It's everything Gunther said would happen to him, right? He's like, you're being a good friend, you're being a good ally, you're being loyal and faithful, and all that's doing to you is making you hurt. All you're doing is getting beat up for it, and it's going to cost you the title. And he was right. It did cost him the title because he wasn't 100% against Gunther. He wasn't 100%, and he still didn't tap out, by the way. So, like, I think people aren't giving Jay credit for that when they're crying about him losing his title, is that he looked really good in that loss. As good as he could have been booked to lose. If losing was going to be what happened, he actually was booked really well in that loss. And Jay could get bitter about that if he keeps showing up for Sammy, if he starts to show up for LA Knight, or if he starts to show up for Penta. He has shown up for Cody and for Sammy already. Like, those three have had each other's backs for a long time, and nobody people don't really show up for Jay. I mean, I'm not saying never, it happens, but when Jay did that lone wolf thing and left the bloodline, for the most part, he has kind of been on his own when he's been in trouble. So I think there's a very logical pathway for him to finally be like, you know what, I've been beaten down, and I have been there for all of you guys. How come you were never there for me? Where were you when I lost my title? Where were you when I was getting, my ribs broken by Bronson Reed? All this kind of stuff. So if you told me to be Triple H for a day and says one of these guys needs to turn heel next week, like, who's it going to be? Like, I would pick Jay, just because I think it would make more sense out of the two of them in this current climate. But I will say, if you wanted to make more money with a heel, you pick Cody, because Cody is a pro. And not to say that Jay's not a pro, but like, Cody, I think, would get a lot more mileage out of being a heel than Jay would. Just my 2 cents on that. Hi, Sophie. Thanks for being here. With Liv injured, who knows how that messes up their plans? Yeah, I touched on that a little bit in the Raw review here a few minutes ago. I do think, I think a lot of it just depends on how long she's going to be out, because they could still keep doing her stories without her, since the Judgment Day is all about a power struggle right now. And if Liv is not actually on screen, that could empower Finn Balor to, like, try to take more, give him an inch, he'll take a mile kind of thing. And then Liv could come back to a completely different Judgment Day. Yep, Three Kings. Triple H very good at intertwining storylines, and that's kind of why, like, and that's not an easy thing to do, right? And I think that's why people like me are so harsh on The Rock showing up and just wanting to do their thing, or even Goldberg just showing up. Oh, let me have my one title match, and then you can just go back and do. I'm totally putting words in all those guys' mouths, right? But Triple H is creating almost like an ecosystem faces and heels and storylines and all this other stuff. And I mean, I'm sure he's got help with advisors. I'm not saying Triple H is doing all of this by himself, but when you have people just like pop in for the weekend, so to speak, and they're like, oh yeah, like it's as if you are trying to take control of your life, right? Let's say your New Year's resolution is I'm going to eat healthier, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm gonna spend time reading the Bible or meditating or something like that. I'm going to do all those things, and you create this nice little schedule, and then all of a sudden, like family comes in from out of town, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, hey, let's go to the barbecue place," or "Oh yeah, let's go eat some burgers," and like you love your family, you want to spend time with them, you want to value relationship, but it also just throws a torpedo into your whole system of things, and then you have to try to get that back on track once they leave town. Like they just come in and can destroy your whole ecosystem in a couple of days. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that happens in WWE when some of these stars come back and demand like a spotlight moment. Like title matches or being the main event focus of the story and then just bounce, don't love that. I think there's a place for those people and stuff, but yeah. So let me just a little more catching up here. Justin, it was funny when Wood dressed like Godfather. Yeah, I know. I kind of blinked and missed it at first, but then I saw the photos after. I was like, man, he looks like what was Dave Chappelle's character, Silky Johnson from the Player Haters Club. I was like, what'd you do too much, man? Oh man, no, the kids don't ask what the Four Horsemen is, Sophie, because we educate them. That's what people like me are here for. Let's see. Kind of miss heel Jay, Three Kings. You know what? I feel you on that. I don't miss Jay as a heel, but there was an edge he had to him that didn't have to require him to be a heel when he was a heel. Does that make sense? Jay had an aggression to him, a no nonsense kind of thing. I mean, the right hand man, right? The right hand man doesn't have to be a heel. He can just be no nonsense, and that doesn't mean he doesn't have to dance with the crowd or whatever, or give kids his sunglasses. All that's fine, but he can still be kind of like business, once it comes time to be face to face with the Gunthers of the world, and I would love to see that more. Do you think we will see Gunther versus Roman at some point? B is hoping for that match. I mean, I think that's up to Roman. And we ain't seen Roman since WrestleMania, really, if I'm remembering correctly. And the last time we saw Roman, Seth was his problem. So I think if Roman comes back, he's got to deal with Seth and all that first. But yeah, I mean, listen, if Roman is okay with that, I think yeah, I mean, I think that would be a great matchup to have at one point. Yeah, so I think they could match up really well. Sophie, not a fan of Jay possibly winning King of the Ring. I want to go ahead and say this, Sophie. I don't think you have to worry about that. I don't think Jay is going to get past Cody. I firmly believe this is probably Cody's tournament to win. And he gets his rematch against Cena at SummerSlam. That's just my thought. And you could have Seth ruin that, by the way, that match. Because Seth, I don't think Seth is interested in cashing in on Gunther. I think he wants the top prize. And we all know Cena's title is the top prize, not Gunther's, no matter how much they tell us. And so I don't think Jay wins at this point. If anything, I think Jay is going to be, I hope he's not pushed down the card and like shoved into a tag team with Jimmy again. I think you can tell an interesting story with what he's doing right now. But I think the story that's being told for him is that he is, it was one of the Lord of the Rings movies where one of the hobbits, it was either Bilbo or Frodo or somebody, basically just said like, I feel like butter that's been spread out over too much bread. Like he's just spread too thin. And I think Jay, I think they need to continue the story of Jay being spread too thin. And when you're spread too thin, you can't win tournaments. So I don't think Jay wins that match. Now what he does after that, I don't know. Yes, Three Kings. I don't even think about that. Jimmy don't even show up for Jay anymore. You're right. Like, I mean, these guys, I mean, I will say this, like last night was kind of an outlier because I don't know that they were all showing up to some other than Sammy, maybe other than Sammy. Sammy, I think, is still there for Jay. But and then Cody did show up when he was outnumbered like 3-1. But LA Knight and Penta and those guys, like, I think it's less about I love you, Jay, and more like I hate you, Seth. Which, listen, that's okay. You know, it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to be one big happy family. But that is a kind of thing that that Jay could perceive incorrectly, though, if he were to change. You know what I mean? Let's see. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to catch up. I've missed a couple of comments here. Let's see. If Jay loses to Cody, can you see him snap? I think it all has to do with how he loses. He could. I mean, that's a possibility. I just don't know if the company is brave enough to turn Jay heel while he's so popular. You know what I mean? Because we are dealing with a sort of TKO money making enterprise now. I mean, WWE was always a money making enterprise, but at the same time, they would take risks. People like The Rock turned heel in 98. And he was mega popular when he turned heel. So I don't know. I mean, like I feel like Hunter is brave enough to do it, but I don't know how many voices. No Randy Orton puns intended. I don't know how many voices are in his head or in his ear to say we're making too much money off these T-shirts. Don't turn him heel yet. You know what I mean? And we see what happens when you try to turn somebody heel and still sell T-shirts for them. John Cena. It just is weird. And yeah, Sophie brings up a good point. At least the semifinals to King of the Ring is unpredictable. It's very wild to me that we've got 4 semi-united baby faces as the final 4 in King of the Ring. Sammy and Orton and Cody and Jay. And like, oh man, like I feel like they're just gonna have matches and maybe there will be interference and maybe they won't, and they're just gonna book their way to the finals, you know. But the 4 of them, that could just be I feel like that could be a really interesting story of like trust and mistrust. And like it reminds me of 93, the 93 King of the Ring, the first PLE King of the Ring where that Bret Hart won. He faced Mr. Perfect in the semifinals of that tournament. And he and Mr. Perfect had history. You know, Bret won his first Intercontinental title off Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect had turned babyface at that point, but they still had a simmering tension among them. Like, I'm still better than you, by the way. You know, like really kind of short fused with each other. And yeah, I mean, so there was just drama going into that. Of course, that whole tournament happened in one night, so it was really kind of rushed. But you could really simmer some drama with Cody and Jay, with Sammy and Randy, or you know, depending on who it is. Imagine if it was Sammy and Jay in the final. I mean, listen, if you want to create drama in this story, if you want to tell a good story, I think that might be your most compelling final you have. Cody and Randy would be really good too, but my hope was that we'd get an actual planned out feud with Cody and Randy, like with a heel turn by one of them and all that other stuff, and not just a tournament final. But Cody and Randy could be compelling, but I think Sammy and Jay would be really compelling as a final. But I just don't see Jay beating Cody unless Cody really gets screwed over by somebody. And also because Jay is kayfabe wrestling with injuries every single week. Like he's just getting weaker. He's 1997 Diamond Dallas Page, just rib tape every week. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Kevin Owens would have been a fun addition to Seth's group as well. Although he doesn't, I mean, I would like it, but he also doesn't really need Paul Heyman either. He's so good enough by himself. Yeah. So let's see. We haven't seen Roman since Braun speared him. Yeah. Let's see. How do you feel about TKO wanting to renegotiate Roman's contract? I'm assuming they're upset at the amount of money he's making versus how often he's on TV. Yeah. Forget John Cena. TKO is ruining wrestling. I mean, Roman carried a large chunk of this company for the past 4 to 5 years, and I think he's earned the money he's getting. Um, and so it's just a classic case of like working at a job where people show up who've never done the job, who just start trying to tell you what's best for your business. Is really frustrating to see. And like, I don't I want to say this. I don't know that that's true. I've seen it reported by people my trust is kind of in. So they may not be doing that at all. But if they were, I hope they're not insulting enough to the point where Roman has to just stay home, because I know that if he's being paid as much as what they're wanting to cut from him, if he's been even remotely smart with his money, he probably doesn't have to work again if he doesn't want to. And so, like, he could easily just be like, all right, I'm cool. I have broken the records. I have had the cinematic stories. I'm a GOAT. I'll be in the Hall of Fame. I went from Shield to world champion to most hated to most loved. Like, I'm whatever. He's done it all. Here's the thing. Roman's done it all. So like, if you actually want him to work, you're going to have to cater to him a little bit, because there's nothing left for him to achieve. I mean, it's just the love of the game at this point, or a compelling story, or the itch to get back in the ring. And I don't know how much he's got out of any of those. And that's not criticizing him either. It's just like, he's been there. He's done it. And so if I were TKO, I'd be careful. I'd be careful with that, because they need him more than he needs them at this point. Yeah, I mean, we don't know who Seth is cashing in on technically, but I don't see the fact of the matter is Seth has already held, well, I mean, he's already held both titles in his career, but if Seth has the briefcase, yeah, I mean, he wants the real title. I mean, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to disrespect the world title, but that's a number 2 belt. And Seth, over the course of his career, has been pigeonholed into being the number 2 guy of the company, always behind Roman. And so if I'm Seth, especially with Heyman in my corner, like, nuh-uh, we're only hunting the big game. We're only going after the big belts. And I would see that. I did see Carlito's. Well, I didn't see Carlito's interview on Busted Open. I heard about it, which seemed pretty fair. I mean, I got to say, I think Carlito has been very self-aware as to how his situation was handled. So I respect him so much for honestly just being mature about it all. And also, you're going to read clickbait articles where he's like, Triple H didn't like Carlito and stuff like that. They read the full quote of that, because Carlito went out of his way to say, no, Hunter loves me personally. I know that. I just don't think he's a big fan of Carlito's character, which is 100% accurate. Carlito, not the man, the character we see on TV, is comic relief. He's a joke character. He's not particularly, badass or tough. And yeah, Hunter doesn't care for those characters. I don't think he's ever cared, and he's entitled to feel that way. Clearly, he still books to find ways for that to be. And also, Carlito went on to say, they never really had anything for me, but in our segments, they're like, you just make this thing work. And they gave him freedom to say what he was. So most of the stuff we saw Carlito say in those Judgment Day segments were all Carlito. They were all improv. So like, I think he took a lot of gratitude in his relationship with WWE this time around, that he didn't have to work super hard in the ring. He got freedom in his promo segments, and he knew going in, he's like, I'm an older guy. Like, I'm not going to be in the main event. I'm not going to be the title holder. Like, this is my deal. And like, that was just a good, mature way of doing business. And so, I mean, if they want him back at any point, I'm sure they'll bring him back, and he'll come back, because he knows what his value is to the company, and he doesn't get it twisted. So all respect to Carlito for that. Let's see. Oh, they absolutely are ruining wrestling, Sophie. They're doing it with ticket prices alone. Can you imagine if Seth cashed in on the Triple H title or TNA title? I would love the chaos of it. I'll tell you that. For Seth to cash. Actually, you know what? To see Seth and Vikingo go at it, man, that would be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Seth and Trick I wouldn't hate that either, to be honest. But yeah, no, that would be wild. So anyway, yeah, that would be amazing. So, anyways, guys, thank you guys for jumping on. I'm gonna hop off. I've got a few things to do today, and of course, I'll be back tonight for NXT, and I want to save my voice for NXT. So, anyways, I will see you guys then. We've got a lot. We've got tonight, just a tease for NXT. We've got the former Mariah May, Blake Monroe, signing her contract tonight. We've got 4 eliminator gauntlet matches for the women to determine the next contender for at Evolution to JC Jane. So and it's stacked. Those 4 eliminator matches are PLE level matches. So you've got Jordan Grace and Lola Vice going 1-on-1. You got Kalani Jordan and Lash Legend going. So these are going to be hard to pick, hard to predict. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I did see Los Garças won the AAA championships. I was a big fan of that. I'm really glad that I hope they get a chance to shine down there and stuff too, because they're so talented and they never really get the spotlight they deserve on the main roster because of how WWE treats tag teams, deep tag team divisions. So, anyways, hopefully they'll get some work in AAA a little bit more since they now own that property. So we'll see. But yeah, I'll be back as we go. And Justin, good to see you, man. Hope you have a great day. And I will see you guys soon for NXT. Keep it marked, everybody. See you soon.